Welcome everyone to this week's edition of Military Trailblazer Office Hours. Thanks so much for taking time out of your Wednesday evening to spend it here in the spirit of community, mentorship, and of course, learning. I'm your host, Dave Nava. I'm a lead solution engineer at Salesforce and a military trailblazer. I am ably assisted tonight by David Albright, also a lead solution engineer at Salesforce and also a military trailblazer. Each week, we invite a co-host or sometimes co-host to take part in the conversation so we can leverage their experience, their expertise, and their unique perspectives. The focus for tonight's session is exploring the TalentStacker program and how to start a Salesforce career. So if you've ever wondered how to gain work experience without prior work experience, how to network and brand yourself in this ecosystem, and how to get hired, this is the session for you. I'd like to welcome and briefly introduce our co-host for tonight's session, Bradley Rice. Bradley has been working in the Salesforce ecosystem for over 13 years as an admin, a consultant, and an architect. In 2020, as you're probably aware, he founded TalentStacker and created a comprehensive career development program, paving the way for thousands of TalentStacker alumni to upskill and land rewarding Salesforce careers. To date, the TalentStacker Career Development Program has been responsible for well over 1,500 individuals kickstarting their careers with an average income of $72,000 and with an average timeline of only 5 months from start to finish, which is awesome. As of this week, over 40,000 people have now benefited from his free resource guides covering professional branding, interview readiness, and all things related to landing Salesforce jobs, which I'm sure he is willing to share during the course of tonight's session. Bradley had positioned himself to retire by the age of 31, but he wasn't quite ready to be done working, so helping others become Salesforce professionals became his passion project. It is once again awesome to have you co-hosting Office Hours with me, Bradley. Welcome.
Yeah, it is a pleasure to be here. Actually, truly, I mean that. It's a pleasure to be here. I love hanging out with you guys. There's such like a positive environment with this crew. So, yep, I'm happy to be here. Happy to answer all of your questions. And I promise I won't talk too much about TalentStacker unless you guys are just asking tons of questions.
Yeah, we'll leave that to the audience.
Sure.
And with that, do you want to take a moment to kind of further introduce yourself and share a bit more about the TalentStacker story?
Yeah, I'll give you a quick background on me and you guys can dig in as much as you want. I broke in. I accidentally fell into the Salesforce ecosystem fresh out of college. I thought I wanted to be a financial advisor. It turned out I didn't. I kind of wanted to be a high school economics teacher. So first it was high school econ teacher. Then as my backup plan, I took a financial advising job. Could not find a role as a teacher. So I sort of backwards way have found my way into that now. My passions are personal finance and now Salesforce. Personal finance has always been a passion of mine, even in high school and middle school. I was just really into, it was super nerdy, but budgeting. I remember my brother got a dirt bike for his birthday and my parents asked me what I wanted. And I said, I want the cash value of that dirt bike. I was just really frugal and I knew that I could probably buy a used dirt bike and get the same value. So that's a huge passion of mine. Other than that, Salesforce became a passion because it helped me, as David mentioned, get to my financial independence number. And given that was a big passion in my life, I wanted to share that with other people. And at 31, I just had so much more energy and I still have so much energy. And I thought I need to use it somehow. And I feel like the one thing that I really, really have that's really exciting that I can really educate people on is this Salesforce career path. And I'd done so many different things. I was a junior admin. I then worked my way up at a consultancy. I then started my own consultancy. And then I decided instead of continuing to consult, I wanted to move into helping people directly. That was definitely way more rewarding and exciting for me to see a person's life change rather than a business's process be streamlined or an ROI be improved. While that was rewarding and it was fun to, shake hands and get a pat on the back, far more rewarding to hear somebody say, we're going to be able to buy Christmas for our kids this year and not look at the budget, like it's going to be amazing. So yeah, I kind of live for that now.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's interesting hearing people's paths, what brings them to the ecosystem. For you, it was finance, and then it led to the mentorship, career enablement, career development. For me, it was process. I love process. And that's what kind of locked me in, was being able to use Salesforce to establish processes and just nerd out with that. So that's a cool story. All right. We're going to jump into the questions. But before we do, I want to kind of briefly go over what this is, what Military Trailblazer Office Hours is, if you're joining for the first time. So these sessions are an informal get-together for gathering with military trailblazers as well as allies. Everyone is welcome to join and participate to explore non-technical Salesforce career and branding related topics so that you can achieve your professional development and your career related goals. This next hour is yours. It's an opportunity to collaborate and have collaborative mentorship. So everyone on the call is encouraged to step up and help both ask and answer questions from your perspective, which of course will provide a rich dialogue and better answers given. Do keep an eye on the chat window during tonight's session. We'll be posting content in there, and you can use it as well to connect on LinkedIn, posting your profile links. And if you have questions as well during the session, please speak up, raise your hand. If you don't feel comfortable speaking up, no worries. You can post those in chat. We'll be monitoring that as well, looking for those questions and be posing them. And then lastly, tonight's session is being recorded. If you'd like to share an attribution-free comment or question, just let me know before you speak. And that way I will have a way to kind of mark the tape so I know where to edit it out in the final recording. All right, so we'll go ahead and dig into it. We're going to talk a little bit tonight about TalentStacker program. We'll go, as Bradley mentioned, we'll go as deep into that as you'd like. And we're also going to talk about how to get started in the ecosystem, how to be successful. And so before we talk about, enablement resources, support channels, and how Trailblazers have found success, I want to paint a picture, or rather ask Bradley to paint a picture of what it's like for new entrants. So Bradley, you've helped hundreds and hundreds of people find gainful employment in the Salesforce ecosystem. From those experiences, what are some common challenges that new Trailblazers have with getting started?
Yeah, great question. And first, I want to point out that I think a couple of years ago, I could take credit for people getting gainful employment in the ecosystem. Today, it is a crew of individuals making that happen. A lot of really intelligent people, smarter than me, to be honest. And that doesn't take much, but they are. And it really is a community at this point. I mean, we'll talk about this a little bit later, but we've seen some of our alumni get laid off in the last couple of months. And we've seen a community rally around them and get them back into employment positions rapidly. I can't take credit for that, right? I didn't talk to them directly. They found those positions through an amazing community that is here for them. So it's much bigger than me these days, and it's humbling that that's a reality. So for people who are first getting into the ecosystem, what are some of the big hurdles? I think the first one is social media. It goes two ways. Media in general, I say, goes two ways. There's one side that is toxic positivity that you'll find that are people talking about tech jobs and how awesome they are and how you don't really have to work and you're just kind of goofing off in your lawn chair and doing your thing. There's one side that's like that. Well, there's a flip side that I would say is toxic negativity that we see a lot on social media, that are people, especially when you talk about platforms that might have anonymous posting, so people feel more inclined to almost vent. So there's one side that'll tell you jobs are great, it's incredible, it's amazing. But as humans, we typically latch onto our fears. We don't typically latch onto things that the what ifs and the possibility. We're actually looking for one good excuse that this is not going to work out. And so what we'll do is we'll get on this roller coaster ride of breaking into a completely new career path, and we'll get that first certification, or we might struggle to get that first certification. And immediately we're going to have doubts, and we're going to go, I can't do this. It's not for me. I'm not good enough. I don't know enough. I'm not techie. Even if you get the certification, you start interviewing, you start doubting yourself and going, everybody who told me I could get a job with a certification lied, or they misled me, or I don't have enough experience. The ecosystem has changed and it's not in my favor. And then what they'll do is they'll head off into social media and they'll find resources and posts and people that support whatever their belief is. And it allows them to latch onto their fears and to dignify those fears. And to me, that is a worst case scenario of what can happen to an individual who's trying to transition into any career path, whether that be Salesforce, or honestly, if they're looking to do anything that is a meaningful change in their life. The first thing they're going to do is doubt their ability to do that. And if they get down that slope, they're going to find people who agree with them and create an echo chamber of that belief, which leads to not a very good outcome. So that's why community is so important for me personally. Surround myself with people who have either achieved what I'm looking to achieve, or at least they are growth mindset, looking to just remain positive, even in light of bad situations. And bad situations are going to happen every day, every week, every month. So it's sort of up to us how we adapt and adjust in those. So Honestly, it's a general answer, but the biggest hurdle is going to be keeping your head on straight and focusing on you and your growth and not focusing so much on what everyone's saying all the time.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about imposter syndrome all the time, and it's very easy to slide into that mentality, especially if you have a couple early defeats and you're questioning your ability to do it. So, 100%, community is where it's at for that. And I was lucky in that I was able to latch onto the Salesforce military and Trailhead military community early, and then now, thankfully, I'm able to create my own community where I can bring folks in who are like-minded and who are positive to share insights. But it's interesting. And so, because I often get asked, first you brought up social media initially, and how do I create this brand? How do I create this persona when it's brand new to me? I may not have any experience, and I don't really understand the culture that I'm entering. And I always say, go look at other folks that are successful in the ecosystem and, audit their profiles, see what they're posting about, see the things they're joining. And until you figure out your own unique style, mimic theirs and see what works and see what doesn't work and go from there.
Yep, I would agree.
Yeah. All right. So we've talked about some of the challenges. What are some common misconceptions that you've run across, and how have you countered those?
Yeah, there's a few common misconceptions, right? One common misconception, especially I'll say this year, is that tech layoffs across the board, it sucks, right? I hate that anyone loses their job at any point, much less in an onslaught like we've seen this year. It's not fun to watch. It's not fun to be a part of. You have friends and colleagues and people you really enjoy the relationships with going through a tough time, and it's not fun. I'll say one thing I've seen in all of that is a misconception that all Salesforce employees, or I shouldn't say Salesforce employees, all Salesforce professionals work for tech companies. And the reality is Salesforce is it's an industry agnostic platform. It's used by every industry across the planet. So the good news is when you're going into something like we're seeing now in a recession, typically a couple of industries are impacted the most during a recession or any type of sort of economic pullback. And the beautiful thing is that Salesforce careers, while people do lose jobs, they do tend to bounce back relatively quickly. And a lot of times they end up in another industry, at least for a period of time, until they're ready to jump back in and things are a little bit calmer and they can get back to maybe what they're more interested in, aligned with, passionate about. That's one thing. Something we see no matter what's going on with the current economy, experience. People constantly get wrapped up in, I don't have enough experience. I don't have enough experience. And that's easy to get wrapped up in. Number one, you're going to feel it when you first get in because you're going to feel like, man, I passed a certification test or two, but I'm scared to death to do my first day on the job. I don't feel like I have what it takes because I'm lacking experience is the first thing they latch onto. And then they'll go into a couple interviews, and interviewers tend to, I guess people in general, but interviewers tend to not want to shoot straight when they're giving feedback to a person, especially when the answer is no. And so a really easy thing to say to people is you don't have enough experience. It's so easy to say that because you can get off the hook, especially with someone entry level. You don't have to say, I don't like the way you mumble when you talk. I don't like the way you look around when I ask you a question. I don't like the way, something personal about you, right? It was a way just the way you told me stories. It took you 5 minutes to say something you should have said in 30 seconds. Like, it was just frustrating, but they don't want to say that. So they say, I looked at your resume and we're just looking for somebody with more experience. And that's going to happen, I would say 70 to 80% of the time, you're going to get a false answer of not enough experience. And here's what I try to tell people. If they put up a job description, right? Chances are they got 100+ applicants for that job. And they looked at your resume, and they probably went and looked at your LinkedIn profile, and you have all of your experience listed. It's all sitting right there in front of them. And they invited you to interview. And now suddenly when they interview you, you don't have enough experience. That's usually my red flag. It was something else. Ask for more feedback. Ask if experience is your number one, I'll take it. What's your number two and number three? Was my communication okay? Do you feel like I delivered value in the interview? Did I communicate my value effectively? Was there anything I could have improved on? Like, get that feedback almost like a salesperson. Get in front of them, get the feedback, because that's going to get you into the job. Like, fixing the actual mistakes instead of the perceived mistake is actually going to get you into the job. So I'll say a huge one is people latching on to, I don't have enough experience. They get in this thing where they're trying to volunteer at nonprofits. They're trying to get more projects. They're just searching for more experience. When in reality, it's probably some relatively minor fixes that they could adjust in practice to improve their results much more quickly.
Yeah, it's a good point. And I see some folks sharing mock interview resources in chat, which is great because ultimately, if you're running into that wall where you have the experience, obviously, because otherwise, why would you be in the interview when they've already looked at your profile? Then you have to have some hang up in your interview process, and you've got to practice that skill. It's not something that comes naturally. I equate it to like a muscle. You do have to work it out if you want to be, if you don't want to get cramps, and if you want to do a good job. And I was operating under the assumption that if I'm good at having conversations, that I'm good at interviewing. And when I actually did have mock interviews, I did terrible. And the mock interviewer told me that.
I will run my mouth for so long. I'm so communicative, and I will tell a story in circles. And I mean, you're probably picking up on that now, right? Like I can just talk and talk and talk. And I literally, my wife said, so we're going to Texas Dreaming here in a couple of weeks, and we're going to have a booth, right? And my wife said, what's your biggest goal at Texas Dreaming? And I said, to try to keep my mouth shut. Like I will talk to the staff at the event space and tell them about the event and what we're up to for 2 or 3 hours and take them out for lunch because I don't know how to shut up. And I can't focus on what the person I'm talking to needs to get out of the conversation because I'm too busy just going on and on because I'm excited and I am passionate about the conversation. And it ends up causing me to be less effective. And when you're in an interview and you got 30 minutes with somebody, you got to be on point. Like you got to be, like you said, well-versed, and you got to be ready. Get your reps in, have your stories ready, have them timed out, and be ready to hit that thing.
Yeah, for sure. Dave, I see your hand. Question or comment from you, sir?
Yeah, I think one of the things I wanted to bring up, and Bradley, I think you'll agree with this, is, occasionally Dave and I get put into hiring positions, and we'll do interviews and things like that. And I will truthfully say, and I think everyone on here has probably at some point interviewed someone for some type of job. And the truth is, you may see someone who is really, really qualified, but does not interview well, or you just don't like the personality and don't want to work with them. And you may see someone who is underqualified, and this is what everyone here needs to focus on, but is super motivated. You can teach someone Salesforce. You can't sometimes teach them people skills. And that is a very worthwhile thing to remember, right? If you're a good candidate, the company will teach you what they need you to know. So
yep.
Something to remember.
Yep. 100%.
Yeah. And there's folks on our team that, and I know David's thinking of the same person I am, that came onto the team when pitted against folks that had more qualifications, but they blew us away with their grit, their drive, their determination, their motivation, and just how they led the conversation. So keep that in mind. Experience is important. I'm not going to say that it's not, but there's more to the equation than simply experience. And just to recap, because it's an important point, what Bradley said, if someone's telling you don't have enough, dig in deeper, find out, what it really might be about, and do your mock interviews. All right, so we're going to move on to learning strategies. And, this is a controversial question, which is why I enjoy bringing it up. It's fun to see, which camp people are in. So there's 2 camps when it comes to getting certified, at least in my mind, right? The one side, there is the more is better mentality. And, I have several certifications, so I cannot fault that mentality because I can be considered of that camp. And so you'll find examples in social media of trailblazers who have rapidly earned numerous certs, and they leverage that to build a brand, right? And they were successful doing it.
Yep.
In the other camp, there are those who de-emphasize the importance of the number of certs. And so, where do you stand, Bradley, and why? I'd love to get your insight.
Yeah, it's a good question. I'll say that early in my career, after I kind of got into my Salesforce career, I started to de-emphasize Salesforce certifications. And to be honest, I don't think that was fair. I see this a lot now, and it's something that I work on with myself, and I try to convey to others. Once you get into your Salesforce career and you've been in it a couple of years, as much as you want to not forget what it was like in the beginning, you will begin to forget what it was like. Luckily, I will say very fortunately, I am surrounded by people constantly who are trying to get their first job. So I can't escape it. Like I talk to them, I hear from them, I have conversations. We see it constantly. So I'm sort of in their state of mind. And honestly, a lot of times it's a taxing state of mind. Getting your entry-level job is it's a journey. It's a challenge. It is a barrier. You're going to put in the mental reps to break in. And once you do it, you're going to be in really good shape. I say all that to say, looking back now, there's no benefit in choosing sides per se, right? Now we can choose sides in a healthy way. We can always have our opinions. Everybody always has their opinions. I just would say, like, please don't like shame people for their decisions on what they want to do with their certifications. If somebody wants to go grab 20 certifications because that makes them feel achieved or accomplished, or it gives them some ray of joy in their life, then leave it to them. It's not up to you. Now, on the other hand, from a career coaching perspective, I think that we've shown data, not my opinion, that one certification is plenty to break you into the ecosystem. Typically, it's other things. It's your interview skills. It's your ability to market yourself, ability to network, ability to have meaningful communication that leads to someone taking a chance on you for a role that they potentially had reserved for somebody with 1, 2, 3 years experience, and suddenly they're hiring you. That's what I would be trying to achieve. Now, on the other hand, the certification platform has blown wide open in the last few years. We went from when I was getting into Salesforce, there were 6 certifications. I believe there are 40 now. So when it comes to, and people have studied it, right? We know you can get the admin certification. And if you get the admin, you're pretty darn close to the platform app builder. And if you get the platform app builder, then you probably are getting pretty good chops to maybe go take the UX designer or the business analyst cert, or move into something else. So a lot of these have overlap. So there are certification pathways that garner a path to rapid certification passing. So I would say if that's you and you're like, that's cool, I did the admin test. Sorry about the train. I hope it's not too loud. I did the admin test and the platform app builder back to back. People do that. And I don't knock them for that. Do I think you need platform app builder? No, not really. Is it easy enough to knock it out if it makes you feel good and accomplished and a little bit more confident when you're on LinkedIn or in interviews? Then go for it, knock it out. But there was a lot of talk about needing 3, 4, 5 certifications to break into tech career or Salesforce careers in general. You simply don't. You need 1. I would argue that you could get 2. And at that point, I would change my focus to other things that make me more presentable as an entry-level professional.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting take. And I think we've all seen folks that have, tons of certs and may not be the best implementers. And then folks that have a couple certs and they are solid. I worked with a solution architect in my first job. I think she had 3 or 4 certs, but she'd been doing it for 10 years and was amazing. I'll make a plug for certs, just my personal opinion. Like if you don't have a lot of work experience, if you're unable to get work experience for whatever reason or fast enough to suit your professional goals, it does show hustle. It does show a passion for continuous learning. It is not a replacement for work experience, certainly, but it is something that might rise you above the other candidates in similar situation who also don't have work experience. And you can point to it and say, hey, listen, I may not have been working for a partner for a year, but I've got 5 certifications earned in, say, 6 months.
Yeah.
I'm hungry, just throw me on a project and I'll give you my all. So.
Yep, 100%. No, I think especially if you're in a role, like I deal with entry level, so my mind tunnels into entry level a lot. But if you're already in a role, I mean, consultancies a lot of times will give you bonuses and reward you for getting additional certifications. By all means, go get paid. And they get partner scores, increased for those certifications. So by all means, hustle for that. To your point, if there's a niche you want to get into, like if maybe you like nonprofit or you like education or you like CPQ or you like whatever, like go for your specialty, marketing cloud, Pardot, like do your thing. There's a lot of reasons for certifications. I would say don't mindlessly go get them. You align them with your interest. I've seen people align certifications with income trajectory. Sometimes like CPQ pays a lot. I'm going to go get CPQ. And now they don't enjoy the work that they're doing, but now they've siloed themselves. And if they're not careful, they are stuck as the CPQ expert forever because it's going to get them a $30,000 pay raise. And they can't backtrack now into, shoot, I loved marketing. I want to do Marketing Cloud. And it's like, yeah, you don't have any Marketing Cloud experience. You're going to have to take a pay cut to back up a little bit. So I would say we talk about alignment a lot in TalentStacker, and it's aligning your personal interests and your personal values with companies and qualifications that will end up getting you aligned with the kind of companies you actually vibe with.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it's a perfect segue because I want to start digging a little bit more about the TalentStacker program. We discussed it in briefly at the beginning of the session. There's obviously several professional development programs out there that provide aspiring Salesforce professionals with practice projects to demonstrate their work experience to help them buffer their resumes. What sets TalentStacker apart from the other programs?
Analytically, just the results. Just look at the results. I would say that TalentStacker is probably the only company, only one of those programs that I know that has full transparency around the outcomes. We see some things, right? Like people will present, somebody landed a job, or I saw a recent post, like 1,000 certifications, and that's great, but that's not what people are there for. They're there to land jobs. I've seen a lack of transparency around income numbers. What are those jobs worth? I know some of those companies are partnered with, and this isn't bashing them at all. I'm just educationally. A lot of those companies are partnered with large consultancies, and they've got deals in place that will interview. They basically are contracted to interview X number of people from that company, or from that program. They have to interview them, and a lot of times they'll get jobs, and a lot of times those jobs are $15,000 to $20,000 under market value because it's a guaranteed placement kind of situation. We don't do any of that. And it's funny because people have asked me, they're like, do you have any hiring partners, like contracted hiring partners? And the answer is no, we don't. And they're like, that's baffling. Like, you have to do that. And my argument has always been, we will facilitate the creation of the most qualified entry-level talent in the market. And I don't need a contract in place because the companies are going to come to me either way, because they know that once they get a taste of that talent, they don't want anything else. It's all they want. And in the middle of this recession, like I just got an email today that said, hey, Brad, CEO of a consultancy, I don't want to post another job description. I don't feel like going through it. I don't feel like going through a recruiting process. Can you just give me 5 names? And sure enough, of course we can give them 5 names, and they're going to hire one of them. So that's what I would say. Number one is I'm very analytical. So I just look at the data, and the data says the TalentStacker in 2 years has done what I would say anyone else has done in the last 4 or 5. Now, why does that happen though? Like, what allows that to happen? I think it's a trickle down reality of what we sort of call the Ohana. And I think the Ohana got so huge that it divided into sectors and segments. And you've got some people who will wear a Salesforce t-shirt, but you talk to them for 5 minutes and they are not part of the Ohana. And that's okay. And that's happened. So what we call it is our little slice of the Ohana. And our community is brutally strong, right? Like, it is, they have each other's backs to the ground. They have each other's backs to the clouds. Like, no matter what is happening, they're lifting each other up. I don't know what created that level of community. I would like to say I took some part in that, but I can't make claim to what we see today. I'll say the other thing is that there's been almost like an infiltration effect. Not sure what other word to use, and given that we're in a military community, I'll use it. That there have been so many talent stackers move into companies, and now moving into management positions over the last couple of years. And there is very much like a brotherhood or sisterhood or that camaraderie inside. So when a talent stacker is sitting in a company and they see a talent stacker resume hit the stack, there's an immediate interest. It's just, I want to help out the people where I was right there where they were. I was going through exactly what they were going through. I see them, I hear them, and I want to help them. So there's a lot of things. I mean, we get people really high quality experience. We get people the certifications that they need. And I would say that we're becoming as much a Salesforce career company as we are a lifestyle company. And I think people latch on to that. I think they latch on to wanting to have strong relationships, wanting to have healthy personal finances, wanting to have healthy work-life balances. We focus a lot on companies that don't just hire people and fire people, or they don't just hire them and grind them. We focus on a lot of transparency around aligning with the right companies, with the right fits, and really understanding what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. It's interesting, and that ties in kind of, you mentioned community and the strong community, and that ties into kind of my next two questions. But before I get to those, I'm curious. Has TalentStacker needed to adapt in light of current market conditions? Have you had to change your strategy, provide extra tools, extra guidance? Like, how have you helped TalentStackers kind of make their entrance into the ecosystem, knowing the unique challenges they're facing these days?
Yeah, I think the adjustment is not really in the, I'll say, program itself. It's more of our staff and leadership and how we communicate with the individuals in the program. What I mean by that is today you've got to, going back to grit, you've got to show a little bit more hustle. You've got to show a little bit more grit. You are not going to apply for a job and get the job, right? Like, and people are like, wait, why would you say that? Like, what does that even mean? You're not going to apply for a job and get the job. Applying is not enough. And applying was not enough 2 years ago. And applying is certainly not enough today. You have got to get in front of who it is that is making the decision, or at least someone who has influence over the decision. You have to get in front of them. And putting an application in a stack with 100 other people is not your most efficient route to doing that. You have to find a way around, whether that be community events and looking for t-shirts or booths or whatever else with that company name on it, and you applied and you know they're hiring. Go talk to them. Like, those people work at the company. They know the person who's going to do that hiring. Go have lunch with them. We saw it happening all the time at events. If people go pitch themselves, especially to consulting firms, shake some hands, have a conversation, make a connection. Suddenly you'll see those people sitting down for lunch with the recruiter from that company. They didn't even have an open role, but they got hired by the end of the month. It's really interesting to see that unfold. So the major adjustments right now are, people are fearful. And when other people are fearful, that's your time to be greedy. And when other people are greedy, that's your chance to maybe take a step back and analyze. And that's sort of, I believe that's a Warren Buffett sort of quote there, but he used it for the stock market, but the idea stays the same. We set the record for the most members to land jobs in January 2023. Awful time to get a job according to any metric. Why? And I think the reason why is because we stayed on top of our members and we said, hey, people are scared right now. You know what people do when they get scared? They stop and they pause and they look around and they lose focus and they start wondering what's happening to everybody else. And they start wondering, should I just stick with the job I already have? They start wondering if they should do the Trailhead tomorrow to work towards that next certification, or if it's a waste of their time. And while they're all standing there looking around and they lost focus, I want you to push. And if you push hard right now, you're going to suck up every job in this ecosystem that people are hiring for, while everyone else takes a 1 month pause to wonder what's happening. And I believe that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, it's insightful, and I see your hand, David, and I know we have a question from Amber that I'm going to get to just in one moment. This is I want to foot stomp this. It's an important topic. I still see folks and hear about folks that say, oh, I applied for 40 jobs last week by hitting the apply on LinkedIn button. Or, I'm going on, whatever job site and applying for all these jobs, and I'm not having much success. That's because that's the way people did it in the early 2000s, the 90s. Like, it's not the way to do it now. Absolutely, you have to get in front of people, and there's different ways to do that, which you alluded to, and we're gonna talk about the TalentStacker community here in a moment as another venue, not only to learn but to help you get in front of people and to bounce ideas off of. Question or comment from you, Dave, and then we'll get to Amber's question.
Yeah, I think that fear also goes into the companies, right? And what's happening is everybody has stopped hiring because it's starting from the top down, right? Mothership has stopped hiring. So everyone's kind of like, let's hold, let's see. But all of a sudden, there's these individual jobs that need to be filled, and they need to be filled quick. And so companies are kind of standing there going, we're not hiring. Okay, open the floodgates. We're going to take 5 real quick and then stop. So I would say for all those people that are like, they're not hiring right now, they are, and they're going to be very, very fast, and it's going to be very selective. So kind of be there at the door when they open that door.
Yep, and being there at the door means you already have your relationships in place. You already have to have done the work to capitalize on it.
Yep.
We all know we can't build relationships in an emergency. So, start early. Amber had a question earlier on, and it's related to certs back when we were on the certs topic. What does everyone think about not needing an admin cert before getting the BA cert now? Pros, cons, thoughts?
Why would you do that?
I love you, Bradley.
That's a heated topic in my little niche of people. Man, you want to talk about divisive topics of the year, the associate cert and existing professionals getting the associate cert, and now the BA cert not needing the admin. All right, I'll answer. I wore a lot of hats in my career. I was a solo consultancy owner for a while. Sorry. And I had to be a BA. I had to be a salesperson. I had to be a marketer. At TalentStacker, I have to be a marketer. I have to be a salesperson. We have Salesforce. I'm a BA in Salesforce. I do administration. I do a little bit of development. There's a lot of different things that you do. Now, I think when I think about the community and the obligation that Salesforce has to this community, I think about clarity and how we can all better understand what's happening. This goes for employers too. They're an extremely meaningful part of the community. I think a lot of times in these group sessions, we think about candidates as the community. Employers are a very important part of this community as well. Employers have an understanding of what certifications mean. They know that if you have an administrator certification, you are interested in Salesforce administration. They know if you have an advanced administrator certification that this is your thing. This is what you want to do. You want to be a Salesforce admin. On the other hand, if you have a Developer 1 certification, they know you're interested in development. If you have a Developer 1, Developer 2, and a JavaScript certification, they understand that you are a developer. That is what you are dedicated to doing. That is the understanding from the employer side a lot of times. So now we get in this position where we have a business analyst certification all of a sudden, right? We didn't have it for years. I mean, since the inception of certifications, this was a job role, but there was no certification specific to this job role. And then suddenly we introduce it. And I would say the core job roles that we see entry level are business analyst, administrator, and developer. Those are the three core job roles that you sort of make a decision early on. Where do I want to make my start? And when Salesforce came out with the BA cert, my initial reaction to the prerequisite was that just created a little bit of confusion. You now have people entry level who want to be business analysts. What's the first certification they are now forced, not going to get by choice, but now forced to get? Salesforce administrator certification. Now, they might not even like Salesforce administration. Do they need to know about it and sort of understand the core competencies of it? Absolutely they do. But developers aren't required to, and they should too. So it created confusion. A business analyst is a very different role than an admin, but they should understand admin functions. A developer is a very different role than an admin, but they should understand admin functions. So if we're going to do one and not the other, that's where it confused me. It was that if I were hiring for a developer, I would look for a developer cert. But now the entry-level business analyst, if I'm hiring for a business analyst, I want to look for the BA cert. But all my business analysts are going to have an admin cert while they're working on their BA cert. And now they got to get two certifications, two pretty tough certifications. Like that admin cert is no joke. So now I got to get two pretty tough certifications to get into an entry-level BA role. So I'll say my initial reaction was I thought the BA certification should not have an admin prerequisite, but I thought that the BA certification should have a lot more fundamental Salesforce administration topics included in it. Because if you're going to be a good Salesforce BA, you got to know some fundamentals of Salesforce administration, and it should have been included. And this isn't rare, right? The platform app builder certification has a 50% overlap with the admin certification. So the BA certification could have had a 50% overlap with the admin certification, and that would be par for the course. But they didn't do that. Instead, they made an entire separate certification be a prerequisite to another certification. So I can't say that I'm happy with the reversal on that decision. I I would love to have seen it, but I would love to have seen it in the same release as letting everyone know that they're going to bulk up the BA cert with some administrative topics.
Yeah, that makes sense. And obviously, you know, certification creation is a journey, right? And we've seen certifications come and go and dramatically change over the course of product development for Salesforce. So I have no doubt it'll continue to change.
Sure.
I saw your post. I think it was on it was on the Salesforce Associate certification, and some folks, you know, being negative with folks that are targeting and going for it. And I appreciated that positivity to just let people, you know, go, you know, pursue the certifications that they're passionate about for whatever reasons, and celebrate those achievements regardless of what, you know, how we may personally feel about it.
I think the way I compared it was like, look, a marathon runner can go for a walk and enjoy their walk. The Salesforce expert can take an associate exam and enjoy the process. It's okay. Like, chill.
I would say from personal experience, I took the Salesforce Associate exam. I took it for a couple of reasons, and I'll anchor out here briefly, and then we're gonna break for the photo, and you're gonna see me walk inside because my battery's about to die. I'm enjoying the weather, but my computer's not. So I took it for two reasons. One, obviously, like, you know, I mentor folks, and they're gonna ask me, "Hey, is this a good choice?" And I don't want anecdotal information. I want to have taken it myself to know what's on the exam, so I can provide that recommendation. I think it's a great certification if you're dipping your toes in the water and you're not sure if it's right for you, to be able to study for a bit, earn the certification, test it out, and then if it makes sense, you like it, go for admin, rather than just going after this much more difficult certification and then realizing, right, the investment of time is less. And obviously Salesforce is now incentivizing us to earn the Salesforce Associate certification with the free vouchers this month. The other reason why was like, I've been struggling honestly with studying for exams, and I was at this point where I had major imposter syndrome, and I was thinking, you know, I had my certifications lined up, but I couldn't pull the trigger. I couldn't make myself like study for them. I couldn't make myself schedule them. And so it really, even though I've been in the ecosystem for a while, gave me the confidence through taking that test to go and take some of the harder ones and kind of get my head back in the game. So I leveraged it for that as well. So, all right. So I'm going to walk inside, and we're going to pause a moment. I'll give you this moment to get your cameras ready. If you want to take a selfie with us to share on social media, because we have to always be branding, please feel free to do that now. Totally optional if you're wearing your pajamas and you don't feel like doing that, that is okay as well. Just walking over to my power source. Almost there.
I think he's really just showing off the house right now. But
no, you got to be flexible when you're working remote. All right, here we go. So let me change my view here. And if you'll pause comments for just a moment, that way my face isn't covered when we're taking the picture, that would be awesome. All right, I will give you a count of 3. And 3, 2, 1. All right, we got it. And David only had his mouth open slightly, so I think we're good. We're going to keep that one.
And immediately we have
in the corner as usual.
We have like 6 people left on the call. They just wanted to be here for the picture. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. All right. So we were talking about the TalentStacker program. We got off a little bit on an important certification kind of tangent, which is interesting. I want to steer it back to TalentStacker. And you know, we had also talked about you have to be in front of people, and one of the things that helped you get in front of people is community. And we referenced TalentStacker community briefly and how vibrant it was. Can you dive a bit deeper into your community and maybe why you think it's such an enabler for folks and how they leverage it to find continued success after they graduate from the program?
Yeah, I think anytime, I'm sure you also see this in the military Trailblazer community, and anytime there's a common theme to gather around, I think the more common themes you have, the tighter that community gets, right? So TalentStacker, I think, has given people a common theme to gather around. We also talk about money a lot, personal finances a lot. It's given people that to sort of operate around. They'll hang out in the alumni group and they'll talk about where they live, where they've moved now that they have remote careers to take advantage of cost of living. They'll talk about their budgets, how much they spend on their groceries. I mean, they'll talk about anything and everything in between. And anytime you connect on a number of things, I think that's why I was saying TalentStacker went from Salesforce career program to becoming a bit of like a lifestyle community. We talk about life. And I think some of that comes because Salesforce for me personally, and I think this is riddled throughout the program content, the reason I was passionate about this, instead of just saying like, forget it, I'm just going to hang on the front porch the rest of my life. Like I can't do that. I have way too much anxiety, but was because I thought it had a life-changing impact. And I had seen that it had a life-changing impact for me and other people. And it wasn't really, you know, like Salesforce, close your ears. It wasn't really about Salesforce. It was about a career path that allowed people to work from home, to be more flexible, to have more autonomy over their careers, to have more security over their careers, to make more money than I think anybody ever dreamed you could, to be a consultant or a contractor or a freelancer or an internal role or a consulting role. Like you could do anything. And when I looked at that and then I looked around at other career opportunities, I was baffled. And then people talk about how hard it is to get into Salesforce careers. And I'm empathetic to that. But I wanted to be a high school teacher. It was impossible. I went to school for 4 years. And then after school, after getting the degree, I had to go get 7 different certifications to be a teacher, to not get a job. I had to go into these testing centers and take testing, testing over high school geometry and algebra and trig and calc, stuff I never wanted to see again. And suddenly I had to do it to improve my job marketability. I got 1 email back ever when I applied for high school teaching positions, 1 email back ever. And it was a no. It was like literally not even I got 0 interviews. Basically, I was told that you're going to have to wait on someone to retire or for a school system to expand in order to get a role. And the starting salary is $32,000 in your area. And in 15 years, you will make $70,000. So when I tripped and fell into Salesforce, it flipped my expectations for my freedom, for my income, for my life, for my children's life, upside down. I mean, we are currently, a little bit personal, but we are currently adopting my wife's little brother. And that'll be happening this summer. And I was thinking about this, and without this career path, I don't have that freedom. I don't get to do that. I don't have the flexibility to do that. I'm too busy. I mean, unfortunately, would not have the time to give to him for the support that he needs. But I do. And I have a lot of that to give to this career path. So I think when you bring that energy that I just talked about for the last however long, I hope it wasn't more than 5 minutes because I've tried to tell you guys to clean up your talk tracks. But when you can bring that level of energy into a community and your staff has that level of community, people like Anita Smith, Alex Warnicki, Anthony Scrima, Justin Dux, these are legendary people in my world, right? Alex is busy like the last 3 months backpacking Europe and working, tethering to her phone, right? That's a staff member of a program that's one of the best in the world at what we do. And so when we can bring that level, when our staff members are living life to their fullest and our community is being enriched with people living their lives to their fullest, they begin to live their lives to their fullest. And when you talk about a community that's surrounded by that all day long, it's going to be pretty hard not to just be energized and excited and desiring more and more of that. And when we see that, and when we know that, and we get to truly know people, because we know what their grocery budgets are, we just want to help them and we just want to be there with them.
Yeah, it's a powerful example of community in the ecosystem. I appreciate you sharing a little bit more about that. We do have a few questions coming in. Ryan, I did see yours, and it's extremely interesting. I'm going to put it in second because we've got because it's going to take a while. We're going to dive into it, and we'll grab Deanne's next, just because it's on the current topic. So Deanne asks, many jobs being promoted are back to the office, not remote. Is it a good idea to go ahead and start in an office and then try to get remote? Or should we aim for remote first? I have my thoughts, but I want to get yours first, Bradley.
I would always say entry level, do what you got to do. That's my advice. If I could go back in time, let's say entry level talent stackers or hidden jobs, just over $70,000 entry level. All right, that's our average for the program. If somebody offered me a job and I could get by, and they offered me a job for $30,000, I would take it. And it's like, well, that's stupid. You should always take what you're worth, right? You should always demand what you're worth. And I agree with that too. But I know how valuable that first year of experience is. And the value of that first year of experience is like winning the lottery. From my experience, it is that big. It's seriously that big. So if somebody said, hey, you're going to make $40,000 less this year to win the lottery for the rest of your career, I'm going to take winning the lottery for the rest of my career. Now, that doesn't mean go tell the world that you want to take a job for $30K and you'll just undercut every average there is. But if somebody says 60 and you wanted 70, take 60, like take it. If somebody says we need you to work hybrid and you want it fully remote, but you can swing it, do it, take it. If somebody wants you to work in office the whole time and you don't want to, it's not forever. This is all temporary. Everything's temporary. Just take it, get that experience under your belt. And so just know that the trade-off, whatever you're trading off, is like winning the lottery for the rest of your career. And if you can look at it that way, you'll be a lot less, I don't want to say picky because that has a negative connotation, but you'll be a lot less picky about that first role. And a lot of people come in looking for dream job. And you're not looking for your dream job. You're looking for a job. And once you get that job, you can start hunting for the dream job. And I promise you, even if you got the job that you thought was your dream job, it's not your dream job. We talked to, his name was Jihad. He wouldn't mind me sharing. He landed a job at Snapchat, right? Crazy. He lived in New Jersey. He got to move to LA. They paid for the move. It was so cool. Dream job. He kept saying it, dream job. 18 months later, quit to take his dream job, right? So it's not a cool name company, and it's not super techy, and you've probably never heard of it. And they focus a lot on passion companies and nonprofit work. And suddenly you start to realize what dream jobs are, and dream jobs are typically not working for name brand companies. Sometimes they are, but not always.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything you said, and I just wanted to provide a couple of amplifying comments. So keep in mind, like, all things being equal between different job offers, there is a value associated with remote work, right? The ability to work remotely. So let's say you've got one job offer that's like, 80,000 in the office, and you've got a 70,000 remote, and I'm just making numbers up. It may well be worth that extra $10,000 pay cut for that year to work remotely based upon what your work-life situation is. So keep that in mind. The other thing I will say is, we extol the virtues of working remote. It's a double-edged sword, right? You can work remote and hate it. And the kind of the David shaking his head, what it ends up being in a lot of cases is as a remote worker, you probably work more than you would if you were actually in the office, because the office is right down the hall and it's really easy to go, I'm just going to do this real quick. And then 2 hours later, like, oh man, I missed dinner. So, and my wife is probably chuckling if she's listening to me. So keep that in mind as well, right? Remote work can be great. It relies upon you to make sure that it's great and to structure it appropriately and to define that work-life balance.
Boundaries are huge. Yep.
100%. All right, we got 5-6 minutes left. I do want to get to Ryan's question because it dovetails with some of the questions that I was asking, and it's super interesting. And then I see Greg's got a question as well, so we'll do our best to get to that. Question is, can you speak a bit about how AI is affecting the Ohana? And we could talk about that for hours, but in 3 minutes or less, what's your thoughts?
All right, you got it. It's not going to take your job. These are my opinions, right? I don't have any data. It's too new. It's not going to take your job. You're a person. AI will continue to be your assistant, like Google is your assistant, like calculators are your assistant. You will be the expert, or you won't. And it's up to you. If you choose to ignore it, you will not be the expert. If you choose not to adopt it at all, you will not be the expert. You may slowly become the assistant, right? So I would say be aware of it. Don't ignore every feed note about it. Adopt it, play with it, right? Like just toy with it. Use ChatGPT. When it gets the answer wrong the first 15 times, keep working with it. See what you can make it do. Learn the limitations of it. Learn what you like to use it for. I have not found that it can do anything for me without my oversight and without my corrections and reprompting it and helping it get to the correct answers. Now, have I gotten a lot better at making it give me what I'm asking it to give? Absolutely, I sure have. Just like I got, 10 years ago, I got a lot better at Googling what I was looking for and finding the right places to find it. Exact same skill set. It's like anything else. Use it, adopt it. I would advise personally, I do not think this technology is going away. I think every company in the world is going to be finding a way to make it stronger, make it adapt to exactly what their company needs to use it for, make it adapt to what their industry needs it for. So for that reason, I think you're going to be using more and more AI tools in your consumer life and your professional life. And the more easily you can adopt it and use it and transition as it becomes stronger, the better suited you're going to be for it. So if you ignore it right now and you look up in a couple of years and you try to adopt it, you're going to be behind. It's going to be really powerful and you're going to be behind. So I would adopt it. Don't go crazy. You don't need to lose sleep. Don't get shiny object syndrome. You're going to be all right. Just be aware of it and pay a little bit of attention.
Yep. Yeah. Salient points. It's another tool for your toolkit. I will say that if you've been struggling over a formula and you just can't seem to get it right, paste it in ChatGPT. It'll correct it almost instantly, and you're going to save yourself some time. I say this tongue in cheek, and my mom's not watching this show, but I used it to create a text for my mom that was sensitive because I'm not always sensitive, and it got it spot on, and she loved it. So, use with with caution. It can do some cool things, but it does require oversight. I wouldn't have just sent the text without reading it first.
Sure.
But it was spot on.
Yeah,
right.
I'll tell you a quick use case.
Yeah.
I was rewriting some emails that we have inside of TalentStacker, and they were just old. They needed a fresh coat of paint, right? I decided to utilize ChatGPT to give me prompting, to prompt me, right? To help me think about what to say. It was fun. I'll say that I felt like I had a sidekick helping me write some emails. I didn't get it done any faster because I'm so picky about them. But it was more enjoyable and it felt less like a taxing task to have somebody there just kind of giving you insightful ideas. And I would say, hey, rewrite this. And then I would keep maybe 10% of it, but the parts that I did keep were kind of like, hey, that was fun. That was a cool way to reframe it. I like that. We'll keep that. Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff. We've got 2 minutes left. I saw a question from Greg, so we'll jump on that real quick and then we will close up for this week. Greg asks, any recommendations for folks that are geographically isolated in location and time, like us here in Hawaii, where ironically enough, Salesforce does not have a huge footprint?
Gosh, outside of like the standard, like I think like anyone else from the mainland, we all have had dreams of living in Hawaii. I've thought about it, right? Like 6 hours back from my time zone, and how would I adapt to that? And I think for me, I knew that I would have to work probably at least a Mountain Time schedule or Pacific Time schedule, something like that. I would just have to adapt to that. I enjoyed adapting to different time zones. When I worked East Coast, I would try to find most of my clients on the West Coast because then I could sleep in, I could hang out with them. Once they woke up in the morning and I could kind of do my thing in the morning. I enjoy fishing, and fishing is really great in the morning, and I'd go fishing in the morning and then come be at work at 11 o'clock and do my thing. So I would find ways to adapt to it. You could work all the way from the Pacific Coast to the East Coast, right? Like there's a big gap in there. So, I don't have any quick tricks or silver bullets. It's what you've already thought of. It'd be making the best of a situation and hopefully making a lifestyle play that works well for you. Most companies, I would say you can definitely find companies that will work with you. Now, you're still going to need to show up to meetings, but I'm willing to bet there are a lot of companies out there who would say, look, Greg does afternoon meetings because, he's in Hawaii. So we got to grab him, when he's available for us and not, wake him up in the middle of the morning or late at night. And people are pretty understanding of that kind of thing. Don't bring it up in the interview, but maybe towards the end of the process, when you let them know you got they're going to know where you're from. It's not a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah, I would echo that and just say it's a unique time zone. So look to leverage that time zone as an asset rather than a detractor, and find ways that it can actually help the business by covering down on times where other people may not be available. Always look to your unique situations and find ways that they can be viewed as an asset, vice, something to take away from. All right, we are at time. I want to thank Bradley before we close for spending the past hour with us, talk about the TalentStacker program, all things Salesforce, and help us answer some questions about how to get into the Salesforce ecosystem, how to be professionally successful. So much appreciated as always, and it's great just in general to touch base with you again and get your thoughts and hang out for the past hour.
I completely agree. I appreciate you guys hanging out, asking lots of questions. It's always fun. If you want to contact me, just hit me on LinkedIn. Just search Bradley. I think I have my middle name on LinkedIn. I don't know. It might be Bradley Michael Rice. But if not, just look for that crazy bright orange background. You'll find me. I'll respond to you. It may not be today, but I promise I'll get back to you. And I enjoy talking to you guys. So if you need anything, just reach out. I'm always around.
Awesome. And thank you to all of you for spending your Wednesday evening with us in the spirit of community mentorship and learning. We will see you back on the 17th. David's going to be hosting that one. It's going to be hiring our heroes and talking about their transition-related programs. So one not to miss. In the meantime, stay safe, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, everybody.